Welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Travel. I am Kerwin, and my buddy Kushro is not here today, but I wanted to talk to you about what's going on with Spirit Airlines. And first, my background is this is the Westin Airport, the Westin Hotel at the Denver Airport. And that's where the train comes in from the city. You can see a little thingy there. So airports, because Spirit Airlines is having some issues. So I'm going to jump right into it. Just to give you a little background. So I think about the last 6 or so days, Spirit Airlines started to have cancellation of their flights. And as a result, it left people stranded on the in the airport. Now, they did report that the reason why they're having the issues is operational issues, weather, and also they're having computer issues, and also staff shortages. Now, just to give you a little background of all that, the airline industry, and I don't know if Spirit actually got money from the government, but typically, I probably should check that. Typically, we can check it in a little bit. Typically, what happens is when the coronavirus hit, the airlines didn't have any money, and a lot of you experienced issues where you had flights that were booked in the future, and they were canceled, and you wanted to get a refund, but you couldn't get a refund. The idea, well, not the idea, but typically what happens is airlines work on advanced bookings. So advanced bookings means bookings that are made in the future. So they're basically taking the money that they give you today for bookings in the future. They typically use that to run the airline, because that determines how well they're doing and how much money they have in the future, so they can use it today in a sense. Because all the bookings in the future are being canceled, then if they gave you back all that money, then they won't have any money to really run the airlines, because some airlines don't have a big reserve, i.e. money in the bank that they can just take and keep running the airline while they're not making any money, which is during the coronavirus stage, because they're not selling any advanced bookings, so they literally are not putting any money in the bank. But they still have all the expenses it takes to run an airline. So the government stepped in, and the government said, we're going to give you money to keep running, so you keep employees running and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know if Spirit got any money, but a lot of the airlines did get the money to do that. And the idea was keep the people employed so that when you're ready to start again, you won't have to go hire new people and all that. Well, the airlines are trying to save money. So what they did was they offered people what they call different levels of, I guess, staff reduction. So first, they got rid of all the temporary people because they couldn't afford to pay anyone who was temp. Then they basically looked at the people who are the oldest in the industry. Now, it's not age discrimination as you think it is, but it's the people that cost the airline the most money, which is the people that have been in the airline the longest, which is the older people, right? So what ended up happening is they would do, and I think I'm still recording, yes. So basically what would happen is if you were past, because a lot of people in the airline industry, we just work forever because we love the industry. And so many people will even work past their quote unquote retirement age. So I think what they would do in a case like that is they would say, hey, you're at retirement or over retirement, here's a package. So we're going to pay you some money so you can go away. And the airlines actually pay more for people in like benefits costs than some of the typical salary that they pay you, right? So, and also all the retirement costs and things like that. So it makes sense for them to say, look, you're over retirement, here's some extra money to help you to go away because you're costing us money. If you weren't at retirement, but you were close to retirement, what they do is something called bridging. And what the bridging will do is the bridging will say, and this is standard stuff. This is nothing new, right? This is all public stuff. The bridging will say something like, hey, you're close to retirement. Why don't we just give you X amount of dollars again so you can do retirement? And then when you actually get to retirement age, you can do your retirement. Then they had people who younger people who said, hey, we'll give you X number of dollars if you leave. So they're basically making it worth the employee's while to leave. Problem with that is that you end up losing a lot of knowledge. So you end up losing people who know how the airline works. And yes, the company saved money. Yes, the stocks look good and the shareholders are happy, but you've lost that knowledge and you'll never get it back again. So those people are gone. But typically what they end up doing is later they'll come back and hire those people back as consultants. So to teach other people. So a whole bunch of people left. And then the other thing, when they didn't get enough people, they did what's called furloughs. So furlough says, I'm going to hold your job. I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to pay you a certain amount or something. And every airline did something very different. And so these people were said, okay, go, we're going to hold your job for you. When things get better, we'll call you back for the job. Some people were actually laid off, which means they lost their job, and then they have to feed their families. So what they did, they went and they got other jobs. So now things are starting to pick up, although we're still in a pandemic, and you have all these open positions in the airline industry and they can't fill them fast enough. Added to this, they also had to take airplanes out of rotation. And then they had to basically fly them to the desert so they could store them or store them at some airports. But while they're storing them at the airports, they have to keep them maintained so that, moth doesn't grow in them. All the different things that happens when you store things. Think about if you have a room in your house and you have it locked up and you open it after a few weeks or something, there's dust everywhere. Even in your regular rooms that you use all the time, if you don't keep dusting it, dust just forms. Airplanes are no different. So they have to keep maintaining these airplanes. And I think stuff like Qantas had something very similar where they had to fly the A380s and people would see them flying them because they have to be flown so that everything keeps working. So there's a whole lot of things that happens in the back end. It's not just about, oh, we're ready to go. Everybody jump back in the airplane. Also, the crew have to do what's called recurrent training. So if they don't do a certain amount of landings a month, then they have to go back. So they do that stuff in flight simulators and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. The other thing that compounds the whole thing is there is pilot shortage. The US has something called the age 60 rule, which means when you turn 60, you can't fly for a commercial airline anyway. So they have a lot of pilots that are approaching or are at the age 60 rule and they have to retire. The US used to get a lot of pilots from the military. That's not the case anymore. Or they're getting a slow amount, not enough to keep filling the void that they have, which is why you see airlines like United started a flight school so they can start training people to get people to fly these airplanes. So this is kind of one of those things that just, it's a whole bunch of things that's been happening, and Spirit and American have been having the same issues, and even Delta have some issues because the Delta CEO sent out an email was it last week? Very nice email actually, that explained everything. He says, look, you're waiting a long time on the phone. I know you are. The reason is we don't have people to answer the phones. So we are hiring like 1,000 more people or something like that. But it takes time to train these people. You can't just pick them up off the street and say, hey, go answer phones. So that's why that's happening. Now, in talking about those people, the airlines actually use people on their phones from like the Philippines and like India. Cheap labor, right? Now, the problem with that is that those countries don't have any vaccinations, or they don't have any vaccine or small amount of vaccine. So coronavirus is there, like really hitting those countries. I was actually on hold for 8 hours, and I found out, I was calling my bank, I found out that their phone lines actually kick you out after 4 hours. Then you have to call back. So imagine waiting for 4 hours and then getting kicked out and then having to call again. So I spent an entire day trying to contact my bank when the pandemic was at its height last year. When I finally spoke to someone, they told me that, look, only 15 people came in. And these are 15 people that have their own transportation, because the public transportation was closed and people had no way to get to work because of the pandemic. And so because of that, they only had 15 people that came in. They normally have 100, and they only had 15. So this is happening with the airlines as well. Now, so it's that gives you an idea of what's happening with now some airlines, obviously are handling it better than others. But when you have like super, like I just saw, Spirit has a fare from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta for $21. That's if I was going to fly in the future. But what happens is, so they canceled a bunch of flights for one, like a certain percentage of their flights. They are supposed to rebook you on another flight per their contract of carriage, and I'll show you that in a sec. But if they don't have any more flights to book you on, they can't. And they don't want to spend the money, because they can book in another airline, but they have to pay for it because they don't have agreements with other airlines that will take care of that. Typically, the larger airlines has what's called interline agreements. So an interline agreement says, hey, if you have a ticket on your flight and I have a passenger that needs to fly and I can't get them to the destination because I have operational issues, you can take my ticket. Then at the end of the month, I'm going to send you a bill for that ticket that you sent to me. Now they do this because their fares are very similar. The low-cost airlines, it's like $21. It is not $21 from Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale on Delta. You may be able to get one ticket at that. I doubt it. It's not going to be $21. So Delta won't take that money unless Spirit is going to pay it the full fare. Now, they don't want to do that unless they really have to. We're going to take a look at the, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a look at the contract of carriage. Now, the contract of carriage is the little document that, where is it? I thought I had the thing here. Is that the one? Yeah, I think that's the one. Or maybe not. Okay, that's the Zoom screen. All right, so let's go to Spirit. Is that the one? That one might be down. So just looking at this here, this is the Spirit website when you go to it. Look at those fares. Detroit, Orlando, $21. Detroit, Las Vegas, $31. Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, $21. Those fares are really cheap. So this is probably why they don't have any, they can't be able to book anything else. Now, what I wanted to show you was the contract of carriage. People don't read the contract of carriage, right? But if you go to the website, the airlines are required to show to give you the contract of carriage if you ask for it. Or at least tell you where to find it. And it's on their website at the bottom. It says, talk to us, contract of carriage. Now let's go to the contract of carriage. I did search for cancel so you can see all the terms of cancels. Now, here's what it says about rebooking. When a guest holding a confirmed reservation in a Spirit flight, which is delayed because of a scheduler irregularity, including but not limited to a missed connection, flight cancellation, omission of a scheduled stop, substitution of equipment, or a schedule change. This is exactly what's happening now. Spirit may rebook the guest on Spirit's first flight on which seats are available to the guest's original destination without additional charge. They don't have any flights to book you on. Our staff will focus on rebooking as many guests as possible on alternate flights, either direct to the destination or via connection through other airports or best accommodation the guest needs. Guests may also have the option to obtain a refund consistent with section 10.2.3. Yeah, you can give me a refund, but if you're going to give me a $21 refund and my ticket, we're going to look and see what the ticket price is from like, so basically, if I had to buy a ticket today or for a flight tomorrow, what would be the cost for it? So basically, they're not going to book in another airline, or otherwise they would have said so here, right? But they're not. So a change may be made to an itinerary without a charge and or fare different when the itinerary was affected by a canceled flight. This is not gonna, they're not gonna charge you anymore. They're just gonna do, right now they're just trying to get you home. The fact is, but they don't have any flights. If they had a flight, I guarantee you they would put you on it because they want to get you out of their face. Okay, so let's go down. Amenities and service for guests. Spirit will not assume expenses incurred as a result of flight delays, cancellation, or schedule change. Spirit may provide limited amenities and services which may be required by certain guests in order to maintain their safety, health, and welfare. So if you need water and you ask for it, they will probably give you. If you don't ask for it, they probably won't volunteer because this is not something that they have to do. Now, because this is a really big issue, they might be doing that. I'm not out there, so I don't know. So if any of you are out there, let me know because they might actually be doing this. It makes sense that they would. We're reading some more. Amenities provided by Spirit are provided as a courtesy to the guests and are not to be considered as an obligation of Spirit. This is why you read the contract of carriage. In the case of a cancellation, or because you know what, you agreed to this, whether you knew it or not, you agreed to it because you bought the ticket. In the case of a cancellation or misconnection, if rebooking options are available the following day and the cancellation is due to our failure, we may overnight hotel accommodations for non-local guests. But guess what? You have to ask. And you have to sign on the line with everybody else to do this. And it says we may, which means that they don't have to. However, if the cancellation or misconnection is caused by severe weather, air traffic control decisions, or other issues outside of Spirit's control, we cannot offer such accommodation. When Spirit gave you that, when I told you about the thing that they said, weather was one of the things that was in that thing. So they could say, hey, we're having operational issues, but it's due to the weather. And if it's due to the weather, they don't have to accommodate you. Lots of people have been sleeping in the airport. I'm telling you this because you need to read the contract of carriage whenever you buy a ticket, because these are the rules that you need to know. The other thing is you need travel insurance. I can't explain that any better. You need travel insurance because travel insurance covers you for cancellations, for trip delays. Now, you're not going to get your money back right away, but at least you can buy another ticket. You need to see what you're covered for and get where you need to go, or you can rent a car. In this case, it's in Fort Lauderdale, because Fort Lauderdale is Spirit's hub. And so lots of people are flying into Fort Lauderdale and out of Fort Lauderdale. So people are getting to Fort Lauderdale, but some of them aren't able to get out. So, and it says it's non-local, I think is what it says here, right? Now, in case of a cancellation or misconnection, if your booking options are available the following day, I read that already. However, if the cancellation or misconnection is caused by severe weather, air traffic control, blah, 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 we cannot offer you. You're not going to get anything. We will nevertheless make reasonable effort to provide information enabling guests to secure accommodation on their own. So they would normally give you like a voucher or something like that. No lodging will be provided to a guest of any Spirit flight which is delayed or canceled in the originating city of the guest reservation. So you're leaving from Fort Lauderdale or Los Angeles or Detroit or Orlando, and you show up and the flight is canceled. Go home. They're not going to put you up because this is your origin city. Now, some people drive to get to these airports so they can leave because the fare is cheaper, right? Yes, people do that. I met a couple once who They were in Monterrey, Mexico. The fare from Monterrey to Houston they were going to Florida, was a lot of money. So they took a bus, and I met them because I met them on the bus. They took a bus from Monterey to Houston. Then they took the local bus for $1.25 from Houston downtown to the airport. Then they jumped on the flight to Florida. So when these airlines say that if it's your origin city, so this was that couple, for example, Houston is the first time they're getting on the flight, but they don't live in Houston. So they'd have to go find a hotel. This is why you get travel insurance, right? So I think those are the only pieces that I saw that's canceled. I was just going through here looking for cancellation. It's a PDF file. Let me see what else is here. Compensation of involuntary that's denied boarding. You're denied boarding because the flight is canceled. If you're denied boarding involuntary, you're entitled to a payment of denied boarding compensation from the airline, unless you're denied boarding because the flight is canceled. So this rule says, if I cancel the flight and you can't get on, you don't get anything. This is just what the rule says. I'm not making it up. This is what's here. Let's see what's in there. Okay, involuntary. That means, like in this case, they've canceled the flight and it's not your fault. Guest, in the event that Spirit is unable to provide a previously confirmed seat and is unable to reroute the guest via Spirit, Spirit will refund as indicated. Guests involved in a Spirit cancellation or delay in excess of 2 hours will have 3 options available to them. 1, reaccommodation. That means we'll book in another flight, a credit for future travel, or a refund. None of that sounds good, right? Because right now you just want to get to where you're going and you're stuck in the airport. So what is this saying is that there's not much they can do for you unless a Spirit airplane shows up. Now they are trying. They really are trying. But when you cancel that much of your flight, what happens is the airline has a network. So you saw they went from Detroit, they go to Orlando, they do Fort Lauderdale, they do international, they go to the Caribbean. So you have crews all over the place. And when you have a cancellation, it means that a crew can't go from one place to the next. The airplanes have a maintenance log. And so after a certain number of hours, they need to be maintained. Usually they do it overnight. Also, the other piece of that is when it comes to maintenance, sometimes you have to take the plane out of service because it's due maintenance. The crew, you hear people talk about crew staying over their time. The crew has a certain number of hours that they can work during the day, and then they have to get rest. Now, this issue is not just you, because they have crews that are all over the place and they're probably staying in hotels if the crew is not at their base. Bases like Fort Lauderdale, there's probably a crew base that they have because the airline is based in Miramar and Fort Lauderdale is one of their hubs. Okay. So Spirit Airline guest service plan, notify guests of no, this is just the plan that they have. So it says that they have to notify you, allow reservation to be held or canceled without penalty for a defined amount of time, disclose travel itinerary. Okay, so this is for, we would give our guests, whether at the airport, on board an aircraft, or elsewhere with computer or telephone access, the best available information regarding delays and cancellation in a timely manner. So basically, there's only one person. The other thing to remember is the people at the airport, it's not their fault, right? They're employees, they're just working the flight. Please don't yell at those people. I know that you're upset, I know that you're angry, but it is not their fault, right? They have families to go home to. They only work a certain number of hours. So once everything is done on a shift basis, some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time. So when their time is up, they need to go home. They have a life as well. Now, I know this is really difficult. I used to work at the airport, so I completely understand. I got yelled at all the time, and it wasn't my fault. I'm the airline representative, so I try to do as best as I can. So just to, they're humans, so we need to think about that. So this is Spirit saying, yeah, we'll tell you when we have a cancellation. Spirit, when making your reservation, provide Spirit with your contact information, phone number, so that they can contact you. One thing that people don't do is they don't have phone numbers in their reservation. The airlines will use a phone number to contact you if there's a delay. They will also use an email address. If you're booking this through like an online travel agency, and I don't think Spirit is in any of these agencies, you usually have to go direct to them, but you need to make sure you have contact numbers in your reservation. Some people don't. Actually, we'll find out in a sec. If the flight is delayed or canceled, Spirit works automatically to reaccommodate guest booking. Well, that's out the window. They're trying. If your flight is canceled, a new boarding pass with your itinerary is being issued. Essentially need you lengthy onboard delays. Spirit is committed to operating a reliable schedule for every guest. Weather, air traffic, and other issues can cause delays and cancellations. Our commitment is to make our guests who experience long on-aircraft delays as comfortable as possible, while these are actually not on the aircraft. Disclosure of itinerary. We will make every attempt to provide our guests with accurate, up-to-date information on that, and our cancellation policies, where the cancellation policies. Reservation agents can relay cancellation and refund policies to guests upon request at the time of booking. These policies can be found in section 3.3 of the Contract of Carriage. So this is what I was telling you, that you can ask for the Contract of Carriage. So, I could go on and on, but I won't. So the other piece I'm going to show you is, let's go to Google. Google.com/flights. And what I wanted to show you, we're going to look at, let's try to go from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta. And we're only going to go one way, and we're going to go tomorrow. We're not even going to go today. Well, let's go August 7th, because I'm stuck at the airport and I want to go. So now I go here, and I wanted to get, oh, sorry, I didn't put Atlanta in. So Google is giving me all the fancy stuff. I need to go and travel, not explore. Flights, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's showing me a Spirit flight. Wow, I can still get a Spirit flight tomorrow for $23, but there's probably no plane there. But the Delta flight is $40. So these fares are really, really cheap. Well, that's from Miami. So I can go to Miami and I can get on a Delta flight for $40. Oh, that's Monday, August 23rd. What I wanted was the 7th, tomorrow, the 8th. So actually, you can see it here. See how the fares are? The fares are cheap way out, because they're matching actually the $21 fare that Spirit has, is what you're seeing here. But look at the fare if I want to go tomorrow. So my flight got canceled today. I want to go tomorrow. Even if I want to go Monday, it's $111. So let's see. Who am I going to fly on? American. So if Spirit was going to get you from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, you would actually have to go to Miami in this particular example. Even Spirit themselves is charging $260 if you had to fly tomorrow. This might not be one of the routes that's canceled, but even if you're going to fly in Spirit, it's $260. So let's say if Spirit had to buy you a ticket to get to where you wanted to go, it would cost $254, but you only paid $21 for your ticket. So that is costing the airline money. And when you have like an entire airplane of like 100 people, it adds up. So let's do Fort Lauderdale to like LA, for example. And that would give you a better idea. So Fort Lauderdale to LA is $278, and you have to go to Miami. Now, and Delta out of Fort Lauderdale is $349. Now, if the airline is going to send you to another airport, they have to pay your cab fare. That is how it works. And they should pay your cab fare. So it's because how did they expect you to get there, or Uber or whatever it is, they need to provide transportation because you're being rerouted because of something that they did, not because you wanted to be routed. But you're seeing the fares, $359 on American, 349 on Delta, 278. So if you were going to LA and your flight got canceled out of Fort Lauderdale, and I noticed none of the Spirit flights are coming up. Well, there's an 807 nonstop showing up, no bags, $405. The Spirit fare is actually even more than the Delta and American flights. So you get what I'm saying, right? If your flight is canceled, it looks like they've started to operate. Well, hopefully the flights are in the schedule, so hopefully they're working. But this gives you an idea of what the fares are like and the kind of issues that people are facing out there. My goal here was to try to give you an idea of what's going on, because this is actually a pretty serious issue, and I've been going on for 40 minutes by myself. So bottom line is, if you're out there, I'm sorry, there's not much that anyone can do except Spirit. If you have travel insurance, what you probably need to do is to call them and say, hey, this is my situation. I got canceled. I have travel insurance. What am I covered for? You probably covered for hotels and meals and stuff like that, but you really need to find out what you're covered for, and they'll ask you for policy numbers and stuff like that. Then once you figure out what you're covered for, then you can say, okay, great. I'm going to go book a hotel, spend the night, and then I'm going to go buy another ticket on another airline, and I'm going to get home rather than sleep at the airport. And if you have to get a ground transportation and stuff like that, your insurance policy may cover that. So good luck. Please read the Contract of Carriage whenever you're buying any ticket. It is extremely important because it covers what you get. I know what usually happens, that people just go yell at the gate agent, but they have rules. They can't give away the company money. The company will decide what the policies are, and the agents behind the counter have to abide by those policies. It's just like anything else. It's just like if think of it as you have a job and somebody walked into your workplace and is demanding something that you can't provide or you're not authorized to provide. The person in front of you, they're only authorized to do what the company has told them. And that's all that they can do. They can't do anything else. Otherwise, they will get in trouble. And I know this is a difficult situation for everyone, including the person behind the counter and you, the customer, who are flying these flights. If you're a non-rev, I'd stay home. Go find another airline. Don't be flying Spirit over the next week or so, because they're going to be reaccommodating people. They have their own crew to get from place to place. They're probably going to have to use other airlines to get their crew to where the cruise needs to go. So please be nice to people and don't, yell and scream at people because it's not their fault. So that is episode 86. I rambled for a whole long time. I hope this explains some of the issues that's happening with the aviation industry. Spirit is probably just the first one to have the meltdown. It could just have been any other airline that has these problems, because they all are facing a shortage of employees because of people getting laid off and furloughed and trying to get people back and retrain and everything like that. So that's what's happening. And it's summer, it's high travel. Everybody is trying to, some schools are starting next week in different parts of the country. And so starting on Monday, a lot of schools are going to start, and that's going to continue into September. So this is peak time because everybody is coming back from where they went. And the other thing too, I meant to say is that you can't even find cars to rent, because even if you do, these are one-way rentals, and one-way car rentals are super expensive. And can you imagine if you have to go from Fort Lauderdale to LA and want to try to rent a car? That's really quite difficult. Or if you're in New York, you have to go to LA, that's like 3,000 miles and 3 days driving, and you have the kids with you. And so it's not pretty. So thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of What's Happening in Travel. This is What's Happening in Travel. And remember, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple iTunes, Google, Amazon. We are on YouTube, so you can find us on YouTube. You can go to pastorally.com/WHIT, and you can see previous episodes. Thank you for listening. This is Kerwin, and my buddy Kishore is not here, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. All right, talk to you guys soon.